where have you been? What have you what has this time
It's
been for you?
well, I'll say two things. The first was I did realize that I needed to invest more in a sense of my home and place. You know, that actually also, as you know, as this is also very typical for a director, which is to bounce around to do a ton of different projects and not ever really be home anywhere, you know. And suddenly I am home all the time, you know. And I have to say that I realized that this is this is I was living in this place, renting it for 3 years, and suddenly I'd spent all this time being here and realizing I feel very good here. I really like it. Why don't I actually invest more in being here and actually invest in a sense of home and community? And I suddenly realized, with everything stopping, I suddenly realized the lack of a sense of home and place, you know. And so I decided, okay, well, you know, I'm going to invest in that. And so I actually bought the home and
Oh,
and committed to this home, you know, which was to me a very big step. It's the first time I've ever bought a place, you know, and I think there was something for me very symbolic about that, in terms of saying um, I am yeah, I'm making a step towards actually being connected to this community that has meant so much to me. And that was kind of an amazing realization for me, because I also realized that that's where I get the most meaning out of the work that I do, you know, which is the work that really feels responsive to a time and to people, you know, and that notion of the give and take between art and its audience. It is something that I was thinking about just prior to the pandemic anyway, because the project that I did in Los Angeles was called Sweetland, and it was a collaboration with a number of Native artists. It was kind of a look at erasure and how that is enacted in our communities and in the very land that we live on. Each of the from the creative team, there was a Native artist in each of the directing, composing, and libretto writing. There, one member of each of those teams was Native, so that the co-director was an amazing artist named Chinupa Hanska Luger, who also co-designed the costumes. And we had such deep and rich conversations around the notion of home, you know, and what it means. You know, Chinupa had this wonderful saying of that the land that we belong to the land does not belong to us. And I really realized my own perspective as a, you know, first generation American, Jewish, the son of two Israelis, you know, and the son of you know, the grandson of Holocaust survivors, you know, and thinking, how did our culture survive? You know, what did survival mean for us? I spent the first 3 years of my life in Israel, and I think that when I think about the realities in Israel, of course, the notion of land is so fraught with challenges, and you know, who is here first, and what happened here and there, and how do we possibly grapple with the you know, colonialist ethos that's there, and why did it happen this way, and how do we get out of this mess, you know? So home and land are complicated notions for me, and I think for my background. So being in constant communication with Chinupa, with Raven Chacon, who did the music, and Aja Kushwa Duncan, who was one of the two librettists, with Native backgrounds, and seeing the difference of what home means, you know, from different Native perspectives, and what that did to challenge my own notion of home. I see a direct line actually from there to thinking I need to invest more in this idea uh, of what it means to actually belong to a place and
mm,
belong to the land. And then it might sound paradoxical, but I was asked to consider this job in Detroit as the artistic director for the Michigan Opera Theater. I will say that I came to the realization that what I wanted to do more than anything was be connected to communities and to homes. And so I just realized if I'm going to take on this job in Detroit, I need to think about it as another home for me. I think the arts are so often connected to a sense of a kind of a consumerist model of like, try to be everywhere, try to get everywhere, and then spread your message everywhere, and how much that's actually just connected to a kind of capitalist view of art making, as opposed to what does it mean for art to be totally connected to the life and the vitality of the people that live there, and thinking that is such an enormous pleasure on one hand from the artistic point of view, and an awesome responsibility to take on. And so, when they said that they wanted me to do it, I thought I really, if I have that opportunity to really affect change, I should absolutely take it. I would love opera in Detroit to look and sound and feel like Detroit, not necessarily like everywhere else. I would love every city to feel like they have found their own, even an art form that we think of as so European. Wouldn't it be great if every city just felt like this is our version of opera? This is what opera means to us, and this is how we do opera. Opera has kind of two strands, I think, that it can take. Certainly, when you think about the audience that experiences opera, I think some people think of opera as an art form that is an art form of affirmation. It's an affirmation of certain societal values, certain class structures, and we see that embodied in the theaters that we go to so often. It's in a way, it confirms what we would like to believe as a quote unquote natural order of things, right? So that's one direction that opera goes, and that's not a direction that I have any interest in, and that's a direction that I think opera can no longer pursue. The other direction is a art form that imagines and that posits a future, and that is thinking ahead to who we want to actually be. I mean, reflecting on who we are, but also thinking ahead to who we want to be together. I think opera has an enormous potential there. And I think that the origins of opera were about that kind of collaboration and about that sense of no one art form dominates, right? And no one voice dominates, but it is a harmony of diverging voices, and diverse voices, really, is what it should be. So how can we take that principle and apply it to the very urgent needs of our time? And I think opera can absolutely respond to that, but I would say it can only do so if we do take on the kind of courage to say we need to think in terms of what this blank slate of this period of time actually offers us for moving forward. Was the pandemic an opportunity did you see it as an opportunity for self-reflection and change, or do you feel like there's still something that is awaiting you as part of this process?
This has been awful. It's been one of the absolute worst things I've ever experienced on every level. Period.
Yeah.
Like you, I think I've been, I don't even know how long I've been in my apartment. I think I've been in my apartment for 11 or 12 years. This is the longest I've ever been here.
Yeah.
In all those years.
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
hate it. It's a hard one lease, New York lease for an
Yeah.
apartment that I can afford, that I can put stuff in that that looks like me, that feels
Mm,
like me,
mm,
um, in a neighborhood that I was born in,
mm.
that I would love to to call mine, in the sense that I would love to buy an apartment here and can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, in a neighborhood that I see slipping every day, in a neighborhood where people are in, now there's a block, and there are several of these blocks that are full of people who are addicted to one thing or another,
Mm,
and I
mm.
pass them every day, and some of my European friends say, "Yeah, but you're fine, right? You're okay, right?" And that this sense of home for them is that as long as I'm okay, then whatever is happening in the street is happening in the street, and that it's not
Mm,
happening to me,
mm,
and
mm,
that
mm.
this is not a value I hold at all. And so to be here every day and to see this every day, and to make a commitment to see it, has been incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
And to not just to watch the work disappear, but to watch the work of all my friends disappear, to not know how people are all the time. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
it is, and that I cry every day. I never imagined that it would be this, because I was in LA. I was in
Oh,
LA up
oh,
until I came home on Friday, March 13th, 2020, Friday
oh
the
my
13th.
God. Oh my God. I
And
know.
we
Yeah.
performed in Royce Hall at UCLA in front of 1,800 people.
Wow.
And so I got back to New York, and I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't understand where anyone was.
Wow.
And no one would meet me. No one would get on a train to meet me in a park. No one would have dinner with me. And the friends who could leave left. And at the
Wow.
same time, I've been able to do things like this.
Yes. Yeah.
So you and I have almost been in the same place now. I don't
I
know how
know.
many times.
I know. I know. I know.
and and we may have still been on that trajectory had it not been for this moment too. And so can I sit back and say it's all horrible? Absolutely not. Because here we are, finally being able to talk in a way that, had we met in the other ways, would have been
Mm.
impossible. It's so important that we each have the experience we're having,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
we make a container in which both of those experiences can exist.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're not doing anything.
That's it.
Then
That's
we're
so right.
forcing one
Hmm.
another to choose to
Hmm.
only bring the parts of ourselves that are acceptable to the other person, or that we think they're going to like, or that we think they're going to agree with. And that's not the world I want to be in. And that's not the relationship I want to be in with myself or with you or with anyone.
Hmm.
And
Hmm. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes
Yeah.
to
Yes. I mean,
your experience, and yes, yes, yes to mine at the same time.
yes.
Let's agree that we've had very different experiences of this last year, both
Mm.
valid experiences, and that we can still come to each other with those experiences and talk.
Yeah. Absolutely. When we do come back to live performance, just thinking that everyone in that auditorium will have had a different year. you know? And everyone is going to have had a different perspective, and it is going to take us a while to form that sense of a kind of cohesion again, because there has been this rent in our communal life and in our social lives, and so that's going to have to be built back. But that's where I think there's part of me that, of course, and watches the how the political discourse over the past year has also gotten so terrifying and so difficult at such an impasse, but realizing that, when we do come together in a space again and share a kind of communal experience, that is how we start to repair that rent that's happened.
But it also means that each person has to be able to bring their experience.
Yeah.
That we must build a container that can hold both experiences,
Exactly.
whatever that means. And this part that you were speaking about earlier of community outreach, of community engagement, and how you engage your artistic community in those conversations is going to be, I think, really important. Because we are those bridges.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
we are the builders of those containers.
Yeah.
So there's a
I think
thing
you're
that
so right.
I know for sure.
Yeah, that's so
And that we
beautifully
have to
put.
be involved in that, so that when the people come, not only do they know that there's a space there for who they are and what they experience, but that they can see themselves both in the audience, around them, and on the stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right about the container and thinking about the performance, and I think opera can be such an amazing vessel for holding so much multiplicity. So that's the kind of opera that I want to see starting from this new reset. You know what I mean? It's like, so, let's start with that as the base level. And, opera is so many things. That's what's great about it. And it's so there's so many points of access to opera if we think about it. There's for some people it's the poetry. Yeah, for a lot of people, of course, it's the human voice, and that is an incredible part about opera. But I know just as many people that they care about the visual world of it. They love the sense of spectacle, or the sense of, like, it's an art form that has so many entryways, so it should in many ways be the most accessible art form, and yet I think it's often, again, thinking about the two directions that opera can go. When it's presented as an art form of an affirmation of a period, or of a social class, or of all of these things, then it's taken away from that direction, and becomes something else. And I think that with the right leadership, you can bring everybody along, is my true belief. I wanted to mention one writer that I ended up reading, that I've wanted to read for a long time. He's a philosopher named Richard Rorty. For him, the way that he put it, what really binds us together is not the fact that we're all going to share one set of values, because that's just going to be so hard. And actually, that notion of trying to find that one set of values we all share is maybe not the right way to rebuild our society, because actually we want to be cultivating difference, as in every way that we can, and like you said, holding the space for different perspectives as much as possible, as long as, and this is what he said so beautifully, as long as it doesn't harm anybody, as long as there's no harm inflicted on anybody else, or on any other being, can we hold each other's perspectives, and try and honor those perspectives. And that what we really need to cultivate in our lives more than anything is a sense of solidarity with each other. And I just loved that. And I do think about that whenever I hear about people having whatever, whether it's different experiences during this period, or whether it's different political perspective than mine, just trying to think about how we can get to that root of solidarity with each other. Because I think if we can find that, and again, I really do think I really do think that that's where the arts are going to be crucial when we come back. Trying to rebuild that sense of solidarity.